Hi, I'm Chris Kinane with ARC Advisory Group. Joining me today is Ed O'Brien, Director of Research at ARC. Ed, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for inviting me, Chris.
Can you share your thoughts on the role that digital transformation is playing on retail deliveries, both today and in the future?
Sure. In many ways, digital transformation is kind of the cornerstone of what's occurring throughout the supply chain, not only through the manufacturing and planning phase, but also into the actual delivery to the warehouses. And the next step is the last mile delivery. And in many cases, doing the various phases of both semi-autonomous and autonomous vehicles, they're starting to be tested and in some cases putting into production. Not without some challenges, but there'll be some great opportunities for being able to use the digital transformation, be able to plan, to be able to route. And also it's kind of a cool factor too that the end users are enjoying in the pilots.
What role are IoT, connectivity, and interoperability playing in the emergence of robotics and autonomy?
They're central to it. There's a wide range of issues to contend with. Safety for not only people that are being delivered to, but also navigating through the streets, navigating to homes in the case of like a pizza delivery example, but even to the point of having semi-autonomous or autonomous packages, through the companies like Amazon and others that are trying to get approval, in some cases having approval. But it's essential to know where what's needed, what are the barriers on the way. In the cases of drones, for example, whether or not when and whether beyond visual line of sight will be able to be used, whether overpopulated areas. And in the case of sometimes the cute little delivery robots, the idea of what happens if children are in the way, what happens if pets are in the way in urban centers. And that's why they're probably going to see more visible in less populated like suburbs. But there are a number of issues that are not insurmountable, but it may take quite a while to convince the public that they feel safe no matter what.
It's an interesting point. What have you observed about the role that robots and drones are making for home deliveries?
Yeah, well, in some cases, so a good example, I believe the company's name is Flytrex, it's a company out of Israel, as I recall, but also doing some work in Iceland. They've actually tested, for example, of delivering from like a pizza delivery. It could deliver pizzas like a drone that has a little cable that comes down. Someone waits for it, it comes down, and this is all in pilot phase. And then takes the pizza and takes their soda or beer or wine theoretically down the road, and then the cable goes up and it goes off to the next person. Other examples in drone delivery is actually kind of because it's so expensive and also getting the approvals is a challenge. Actually delivering medicines in some cases in Europe in test phases. And because of the expense, last mile delivery for pizza probably for a drone is not, and that could make economic sense for most cases, except for the cool factor and to get adoption. And to your point, a lot of the test cases kind of have that wow factor and cool factor. So it kind of makes people think, okay, that looks interesting. On the last mile delivery, for example, that probably we'll see sooner, there are some all sorts of bots that could look like a Star Wars, the newer version of Star Wars circular robot. There's also some that look like coolers on wheels. There's others that look like little pets that follow you, that have little compartments for you that you can open when you get to where you would go. There's others that you can in the near future or intermediate term be able to purchase. It will follow you like a little dog. So the cool factor, I think the idea of showing that it's possible in cities like Boston and some in the Southwest, but I remember particularly in Boston is where there are a couple of robotics companies. They're kind of showing it. It's kind of getting the social media exposure, but also people are seeing, and you can see in the background people smiling and all that. They seem, and they're made to be look non-threatening. But the idea, I think, but there's still a lot of issues to contend with for wide to scale and to have widespread usage. You need to make sure that you go beyond just delivering to college kids with pizza.
What are some of the headwinds for these machines?
I think regulatory is one of them. I think getting the right business case for investments as well, because they're not cheap, and you're delivering low cost, in the case of pizzas, and whatnot. However, if the throughput can improve quite a bit, looking at packages, whether you're looking at, tests being made, Amazon or UPS or FedEx or others, or even other services, they're working on getting past the regulatory issues, the issues of, in drones, for example, in addition to beyond visual line of sight and being able to fly over populated areas. That's the biggest issue for drones. Also, the area that they could fly, there are a number of those regulations. But also, what happens if you have a failure? So if the rotors fail, there has to be a fail-safe, an audible alarm, maybe a parachute, maybe some other fail-safe way for it to land without hurting anyone. So those not insignificant, devil in the details, but not insignificant issues. But they can all be engineered around. But also, what happens with grates in the city, in the ground, getting through, what happens in snow and ice, how they all work, and also, so nothing unintentionally runs over a child or something. So regulatory probably, but also the business case is going to be critical because the ones that we may see on YouTube now aren't necessarily that big, so you can't really have a large payload to be able to pay for itself in one. So I think in those cases, there may be the cool factor, there may be the brand awareness of the company, brand awareness. Just like I believe it's Domino's has some cars made to their specs. I mean, something to kind of differentiate themselves. I think those will help. But there's also some last mile deliveries that are being tested that are almost like a little hub and spoke with a big, looks like a humongous cooler with maybe 6 wheels, and it has little robots that could either be attached to it or follow it along and can go to different, you go in a certain neighborhood and you can go deliver to different areas. So maybe ways to get the throughput improved.
And there's certainly a lot of interesting things going on. Thanks for joining me and for sharing your insights with us today.
My pleasure, Chris.
My guest today was Ed O'Brien, Director of Research at ARC Advisory Group. Thank you for watching.